Hariyo. Welcome to another class in English literature. Well, I was just thinking how convenient or how inconvenient it has become to communicate these days. Earlier, people used to meet each other, shake hands. Today, we are just talking one-sidedly probably or two-sidedly probably, using technology. Have you ever wondered what role this technology has played in our lives in today's world? Or probably every time that we talk about technology, have you ever wondered what kind of role technology has played? I tell you something. The story that we are going to start off with today, that is actually talking about technology. It's about a scientist. The story that I have decided to take up today is Footprints Without Feet. Mr. India, something like Mr. India. Now imagine, all of a sudden, I'm speaking, whoo, I'm gone. You can't see me. Or probably you are gone. It's blacked out. It's completely gone. How would you feel? Believe me, that's why I talked about technology today. Well, Footprints Without Feet, written by Herbert George Wells, H.G. Wells, a famous writer belonging to the 19th century. The details you will be finding in the video about his birth, death, etc. But I'll tell you, H.G. Wells was always into writing science fiction. Science fiction. He wrote more about technology, he wrote more about science, and The Time Machine, a famous novel by H.G. Wells. The Time Machine, that happens to be, of an international acclaim. It had been internationally acclaimed. Nevertheless, H.G. Wells belonged to the 19th century. But then let me tell you something, when you talk about literature of any age, remember, apart from giving humanity ethics, apart from giving humanity lessons of life, apart from giving humanity spiritual knowledge or probably philosophical insight into life, age always matters. Age as in the era in which you are living. So 19th century, basically late 18th century, 19th century, that actually was the neoclassical era. The neoclassical era. And that is very important to understand. Why? Because neoclassical era, however, talks about the advent of science and technology and a more pragmatic, a more practical outlook was adopted by the writers. Now, obviously, when H.G. Wells wrote, he took into consideration the 19th century, the 20th century probably, and in this story also you will see how a man who's a scientist manages to disappear. But the story is a beautiful blend. It's a beautiful blend of ethics and technology. Ethics and technology. A very famous leader had once upon a time said, if you want to test a person's character, give him power. If he is a man of a good character, he will definitely utilize the power in a productive manner. And if he is a negative character, he'll misuse them. This story talks about a scientist who actually misuses the power. But कहते हैं ना, उसके घर में देर है अंधेर नहीं. Of course, yes. There is something called divine vengeance. There is something called divine vengeance. Divine vengeance means divine revenge. जो भी करोगे इस दुनिया में, whatever you do, पूरा हिसाब is being kept there. So whatever he done, whatever he did in the story, whatever he did, भुगतान तो उनको ही करना है भाई. Divine justice is another thing that you will come to see here in this particular story. Because in this world, excuse me, in this world, we often say, अरे उसको धोखा दे दिया, उसको चीट कर दिया, मैं हीरो बन गया, पैसा कमा लिया. Often we say that. Often we, try to deprive the others and show that we are we are at a profit. But it's not like that. God's wand, God's stick, waits and decides the future on the karma. And this scientist had actually invented a very beautiful thing. How to be invisible, something very unique, something which probably nobody had thought about, is what he had devised, is what he had invented. But the way in which he had utilized it in his own life, or probably the way in which he had misutilized it, that is something which we need to understand. Let's start with the story. Before I proceed, let me tell you, for meanings, it's always better that you consult a dictionary, because every time students keep asking me, so what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this? So, if you go through the meanings yourselves, I guess you'll be more, benefited. You'll be benefited. The second thing which I want you to understand, when you watch my videos, I will expect you to, open the book and then watch it well. The two boys started in surprise. I was telling you, अभी मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं गायब हो गया. But तुम सोच सकते हो, सर ने तो कोई फोटोशॉप कर दिया वीडियो में. But सोचिए, if in reality somebody is invisible, in reality if somebody is like God, can't be seen, then what? And this is something which happened here in the story. The two boys started in surprise at the fresh, muddy imprints of a pair of bare feet. So there were two boys. Suddenly they saw, oh my God! Suddenly they saw fresh imprints of bare feet, naked feet. I mean, just imagine, all of a sudden there is nobody and you find footprints in front of you. What was a barefooted man doing on the steps of a house in the middle of London? And where was the man? The story is a very simple story, let me tell you, but it has got a lot of morals. I have told you that this story is a blend of science and ethics. It's a very beautiful blend of science and ethics. These two boys, they were standing in front of a house probably, and suddenly they saw, oh my God, there are footprints. From where did the footprints come? Where is the man? They could not see any man, however. And that was something which was, which bewildered, which puzzled them to a great extent. And that too, what could a man do barefooted, especially in London? Now, London, it's very famous for its cold. And the story is set in the winter season. It's set during the winter season. As they gazed, a remarkable sight met their eyes. A fresh footmark appeared from nowhere. Further footprints followed, one after another, descending the steps and progressing down the street. Now the two boys were standing somewhere and suddenly they saw invisible footprints on the steps of the house, and suddenly fresh footprints were being made That means an invisible man probably was walking down, and suddenly what happened? The footprints started advancing towards the street. The boys were intrigued. Definitely they were attracted in a very fascinating manner, and they followed. They were fascinated until the muddy impressions became fainter and fainter and at last disappeared altogether. The explanation of this mystery was really simple enough. The bewildered boys had been following a scientist. Now this is what the story talks about. Here, the writer has very clearly mentioned that the boys had been following a scientist, and this particular scientist was into something. He was about something, and these boys were following him. So, who had discovered how to make the human body transparent. That reminds me of an old Hollywood movie. Definitely, this idea is a very common idea. H.G. Wells' idea is a very common idea, let me tell you, and many films, many serials, episodes have been adapted from novels. Hollow Man, you must have watched the movie. Hollow Man is a movie. It's a very old movie, Hollywood movie. And of course, then there's Mr. India. So all these movies actually, you can say, they might have been inspired, by this story. So these boys were following this scientist, and this scientist was into something. He was about doing something, and this is what he came up with. He had actually devised medicine, or probably he had devised the way in which one could make the human body invisible. And that is exactly what has been said here. Transparent. Griffin is the scientist here. Griffin, the scientist, had carried out experiment after experiment to prove that the human body could become invisible. Finally, he swallowed certain rare drugs. These lines are important. You have to mark it. And his body became as transparent as a sheet of glass, though it also remained solid as glass. There is a plus point of everything, there is a minus point of everything. Now, what I want you to understand here at this point of time is that if your intentions are correct, if your intentions are good, you'll always find the positivity of everything. Rather, you'll always find positivity in everything. Griffin, as a scientist, was not a positive man at all. You will come to know as how you do it. You will come to know as how we proceed. Griffin had devised that medicine, very true, but he had certain evil intentions. He had certain ill intentions, and that is exactly why I told you that this story is a blend of ethics, or probably spirituality, and technology. Spirituality, why I'll tell you. It's not direct connection with spirituality, but definitely morality. Morality. And how that has got a connection, I shall tell it. So this person was rather a lawless person, lawless. He never cared of the law. He was probably, he was a non-law abiding individual. He never abided by the law. He never followed law. His landlord disliked him and tried to eject him. So the landlord also, the house where he was staying, this landlord also was fed up with him, and he wanted to, throw him out of the house. In revenge, Griffin set fire to the house. Just imagine. A person who has given you to stay in his house, out of your sheer anger, your frustration, your irritation, and most importantly, your narrow-mindedness, what you do is you harm somebody else. Tell me, how is that correct? How is that correct? Griffin did it. Griffin's house owner was very disgusted with him. And in return, what Griffin did was something which was very horrendous, unpleasant, very grotesque, terrible. He set the house on fire. And then, to get away without being seen, he had to remove his clothes. I told you, there is a plus point of everything, there is a minus point of everything. Now, London, during winter, very cold, chill. And in such a situation, he had to move, he had to roam, he had to wander without clothes. Come on, hello, that's not easy. That is not easy. So he became a homeless wanderer. सोच लो क्या मिला बदले में? You devise the medicine जिससे तुम अदृश्य हो गए. You became invisible, and wow, the evil that is in you, that took guard, and you started thinking that you're God. Come on, realize. What are you doing? You did something wrong, now pay the price. Pay the price. Now you have to roam around here and there without clothes because of your anger, because of your irritation, because of your frustration. This is where you landed. Had you thought about doing good to the society, you could have used this invisibility in a better manner, in a proper manner, but you did not. So obviously, he had to become a homeless wanderer without money, without clothes, without money, and quite invisible. That is the only plus point that Griffin had in him, that he could not be seen. But badle mein kya mila? He had to face the intense cold. He had to go through the unpleasant situations, the adversities of the weather, the adversities of the winter season. Well, until he happened to step in some mud. And this is why the imprints, this is the reason why these imprints are formed, because he stepped into some mud and left, footprints as he walked. Very beautifully, H.G. Wells has talked about the significance of the title here. Footprints without feet. Of course, very easy for you to understand. There were no feet, but yet there were footprints. So, definitely, it's hinting at the invisibility that Griffin was experiencing. He escaped easily enough from the boys who followed his footprints in London, but his adventures were by no means over. He had chosen a bad time of the year to wander about London without clothes. It was midwinter. The air was bitterly cold, and he could not do without clothes. Instead of walking about the streets, he decided to slip into a big London store for warmth. This is what he could have done the best. There was a departmental store, like Big Bazaar, Vishal Mega Mart type of a store. Sorry. And that is where he entered because he needed clothes, Closing time arrived, and as soon as the doors were shut, Griffin was able to give himself the pleasure of clothing and feeding himself without regard to expense. Children and my dear viewers, thank you. Why? Because you have given me a reason to make videos. Why, I shall tell you. I make videos so that the needy students who are needy, who cannot afford to go to tuitions and private coaching centers and all, they can be benefited. There is no greed in what I do, let me tell you. Why am I telling this? मैं ये क्यों बोल रहा हूं मैं आपको बताता हूं. देखिए, Griffin became invisible. Very good. But what I don't have right now and what he has in the story is one thing, that is greed. कहते हैं लालच बुरी बला है. Of course है. आप लालच करते हैं, आप पाप करते हैं, आप मरते हैं. लालच से पाप, पाप से मृत्यु. Excessive greed, excessive selfishness, excessive arrogance, excessive anger. And मैंने अपने एक लेक्चर में कहा था कि कभी किसी की बद्दुआ मत लो. Do not, I guess in the previous lecture I had said, for some students I had said this, never ever earn curse for yourself. Griffin, the moment he saw the departmental store, the moment he saw the store, he was like, wow. But he forgot something. No matter whatever he eats, no matter whatever he drinks, no matter whatever he does, the eye of God will always see him. I hope I'm able to convey what I'm trying to say here. I hope you're able to understand. Because the moment he entered into the store, he broke open the boxes. Look at the animosity. Look at, the kind of a behavior. The uncivility. What else will I say? Uncivility. If you are really educated, if you are really a knowledgeable person, you will become modest in life. वो कहते हैं ना संस्कृत में, मेरी संस्कृत उतनी अच्छी नहीं है, वो कहते हैं विद्या ददाति, विद्या विनयम ददाति, विद्या विनयम ददाति. Why? If you are truly educated, you will definitely be modest. So here he broke open the boxes. Scientist है, बताइए. इसलिए मैंने कही कि this story is a blend of science and morality. अब आप जज कर लो. मेरे प्यारे viewers, मेरे प्यारे students आप हैं, आप जज कर लो. What kind of a behavior is this? He broke open the boxes and wrappers and fitted himself out with warm clothes. So jahan mila, whatever he got, he just ransacked the store. He completely destroyed everything. Whatever he got, he pulled out, he picked out, he wore, he ate, he drank to the neck. And he was looking at the physical satisfaction that he was receiving in this particular store. But then the amount of satisfaction that is spiritual, how I shall tell you. This kind of a satisfaction is momentary, is very temporary. और वही होता है. I shall tell you how. Just follow. So what did he do? Soon with shoes, overcoat, wide brimmed hat, बड़ी सी टोपी, hat, brim, wide brim. मैं वीडियो में शेयर कर दूंगा wide brimmed hat. ऐसा होता है. In the picture also you have it here in the book. He became fully dressed and visible person. Obviously, he was wearing clothes, hat, everything. So, he was visible again. So, what did he do? In the kitchen of the restaurant, he found cold meat and coffee. And he followed up the meal with sweets and wine taken from the grocery store. Finally, he settled down to sleep on a pile of twigs. Now I tell you why I said, now let's say paap se mrityu. Griffin's greed made him wear those clothes, made him wear the hat, made him stuff his body with food, or rather stuff his mouth with food, stuff his mouth with food and drink. Definitely he felt sleepy. मुझे सोना है, I'll sleep. And without understanding the seriousness of the entire situation, what happened? He slept on the quilt. मैंने इसीलिए कहा था कि मैं जो ये वीडियो बना रहा हूँ आपके लिए, इसमें मेरा कोई लालच छुपा नहीं है, मगर इसका लालच दिखता है। मेरी बातों को दूसरे शब्द में मत लेना, मैं यही दिखाना चाहता हूँ, ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि मैंने जो कहा आपसे कि ये वीडियो मैं बना रहा हूँ उन बच्चों के लिए भी, उन बच्चों के लिए भी ये वीडियो हेल्प करेगा जो लोग पैसे खर्च करके कोचिंग या कहीं जा नहीं सकते। बट इसका जो ग्रीड है, द ग्रीड दैट यू फाइंड इन दिस मैन इज टेरिबल। ही इज सो ब्लाइंडेड, पूरा ब्लाइंड हो गया है। ही इज सो ब्लाइंडेड इन हिज फिजिकल प्लेजर्स, फिजिकल प्लेजर्स। ही इज ब्लाइंडेड विद ऑल द materialistic charms that he finds here, food, clothes, that he forgot everything. He forgot that he was practically invisible, and he slept on the quilt. Quilt, rajai. Quilt का मतलब है rajai, quilts. Only if only Griffin had managed to wake up in good time, all might have been well. As it was, he did not wake up until the assistants were already arriving next morning. Dekh lo, that is exactly what I told you. Griffin's greed led him into trouble. When he saw a couple of them approaching, he panicked and began to run. They naturally gave chase. In the end, he was able to escape only by, follow this line, quickly taking off his newly found clothes. So once more, he found himself invisible but naked in the chill January air. It was the month of January. January is very cold in London. Once again, he had to open all his clothes. So the temporary pleasure that he was deriving there in that store, that is gone. And not only that, my dear boys and girls, his greed landed him in this kind of a distressful situation. This time, he decided to try the stock of a theatrical company. Now he went into a theatrical company. People who are, theatrical company, they conduct plays and all. They have groups, they have troops of actors and all. Hoping of finding not only clothes but also something that would hide his empty space above his shoulder, the face area. Clothes gave him a physical structure, but what about the face? So what did he do? Shivering with cold, he hurried to Drury Lane. Drury Lane was the place, the center of the theatre world. So Drury Lane actually is famous. That is the hub of theatre world actually. He soon found himself a suitable shop. He made his way invisible upstairs and came out a little later wearing, please mark these, they are important. What did he wear? He wore bandages around his forehead, dark glasses, false nose, big bushy side whiskers, and a large socho. In order to hide your originality, so much of false props you need. False. It was all false. He had to tie a band-aid so that he had to wear goggles, false moustaches, a hat, and everything that was not his own. यही ग्रिफिन अगर सोचिए, at the same Griffin utilized this medicine that he had devised to be invisible for a noble cause, he could have benefited so many people, so many organizations, but that he did not do. The only thing that was going on in his mind was me first, me first, me first. And that is the reason that has landed him into such a situation, and even worse a situation he'll be seeing very soon. So finally what happened? He soon found himself a suitable shop. He made his way was invisible and he brought these things for himself to escape without being seen. Look at that now. What did he do? He callously attacked the shopkeeper from behind, after which he robbed him of all the money he could find. Today, in this part of the lecture, I'll stop here. But before I stop, let me tell you a couple of things. Whatever we read today, whatever we learned today. ज़्यादा बड़ा वीडियो करूंगा तुम बोर हो जाओगे. Well, Griffin ने क्या किया देखो लास्ट में. After wearing all those false props, mustache, hat, bandage, everything. Griffin ने क्या किया? Griffin attacked this guard, the person who was there. You will find in the story, Griffin, in order to satisfy his own greed, in order to satisfy his own ego, in order to satisfy his own, his own desires, kept on committing mistakes after mistakes, mistakes after mistakes. And that is the reason why I had told you that this story is a blend of morality and science. See, science gives us a rational approach. Science makes us feel more practical. आज मैंने क्लास की शुरुआत की थी साइंस के बारे में बात करके, टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में बात करके. Today we are dependent on technology. आज मैं तुमसे ये जो बात कर रहा हूँ, today I'm addressing you through this camera. At least I'm able to reach you. अब तुम्हें मैं पसंद आऊं ना पसंद आऊं वो बात की बात है. That is a different story. But at least this technology, this gadget, this camera is helping me to reach you. So why don't we use technology in a better way? Why did he not use technology in a better way? So today I'll stop here. I hope you could understand whatever I explained of this chapter. If there is any doubt, please feel free to let me know. Thank you so much and take care of yourselves. Be safe at home. Hari Om. Thank you.